You are about to listen to the words of Fethullah Gulen, a distinguished Islamic scholar and thinker. In this podcast, you will hear his essay, The Last Messenger of the Unseen.
The final word about God, the universe, and humanity was spoken by Prophet Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. He voiced the call to truth, and through his unique service to God and humanity, he became the origin and final cause of all things. He is the last messenger of the unseen, proclaiming its greatest secrets. He is the interpreter who never misleads, the one who teaches the true relationship between humanity and God, who clarifies our responsibilities. He is at once the first man and the last messenger, the closest to God, and our most reliable guide to divine closeness. The angels awaited his advent. Many messengers brought the good news of his arrival, and even now the eminent friends of God depend upon him. He lit the torch of prophethood, and his life was made luminous by its truth. In this sense, his reflection of the divine glory gave the world its first light, and his appearance in the physical world was this light's final outpouring. As the universal messenger, he is uniquely perfect, the index of internal and external realities, the essence and extract of the creation, the brightest fruit of the tree of existence, and the master of all humanity in the name of the Supreme Creator. His essence is beyond description. He is matchless in his spiritual depths, and through his message the truth is manifest. His fame reaches back to the time before Adam. His light was legendary even before his existence. His coming was a divine bestowal. His existence was the pure pearl in the nacre of creation, and his message was addressed to all humanity. In him resides the abstract knowledge of all science, and his wisdom is a crystal clear spring around which the brightest faces gather. His spirit is the tableau in which pure souls can contemplate eternity. Because of the light he has spread, humanity can see things as they really are. His precious words are as sweet as new melodies. In his presence, secrets are made known and our confused thoughts come into focus. Mist is lifted from the eyes of those who consider him, and rust is dissolved from their souls. He brings news of the ancient beginning and the ultimate end. He brings meaning to every ambiguity. In the presence of such teaching, all of existence becomes a poem that we recite to the rhythm of eternity. Our knowledge is but a drop in the ocean of his knowledge. Our wisdom is like a small current in the cascade of his wisdom. Measured against the seconds of his life, all of time is like an instant. Our globe, so minuscule in the scope of the universe, now rivals the vast expanses of the creation in significance, for this was the place of his birth. He is the first of Ta'ayun, the primordial program of the divine destiny. He is the orator of the last prophetic word. He is the true expositor of Zahir, and he articulates the mysteries of Batin. On the one hand, he is a sultan on the throne of prophethood, his conscience and intellect ready to receive truths from Ruh al-Quds, and his heart sensitive to the spiritual dimensions of the universe. On the other hand, he is the most eloquent translator of the revelation, able to transmit whatever he receives from God to the souls and minds of others without distortion. He teaches us about God. This is the nature of his prophethood. He introduces us to the divine attributes and names, and such intimate knowledge stimulates in us a sense of our responsibility to God. In this respect, he is a master teacher who makes known the unknowable and helps us understand the incomprehensible. He announces religious rules, preaches human virtues, and describes moral principles. He speaks with the authority of God on religious and moral questions. He is a lawmaker and the embodied explanation for the truth of truths. Prophets and messengers, as well as all eminent friends of God who follow them, can approach metaphysical realities while remaining rooted in the physical realm. In this lofty activity, their intellect waits upon divine revelation and is bathed in its color. Any mind that recognizes its limits and enters into this divine tutelage will be illuminated by Al-Ruh al-Azam and become a benefit to humanity. In time, this mind will start to perceive the hidden together with the apparent, the first alongside the last. Existence has both apparent and hidden aspects. The apparent is to be seen with eyes, perceived with the senses, and understood according to reason. As for the hidden, it is a realm beyond appearance that God reveals to those whom He creates to perceive it. Prophets and messengers perceive this hidden reality throughout their life and determine their attitudes accordingly. The Master of mankind, may God's greetings be upon him, is absolutely superior in this respect. His special capacity is well matched to his position. With the help of providence, he hears the unheard and sees the unseen. His soul transcends time and space until he surpasses even the angels and reaches the horizon of Kab Kausein au Adna, the highest point of closeness to the sublime presence of God. His honored place in the sight of God is matched only by the unshakable esteem among people. Not once in his life did he abandon the truth, therefore both his friends and enemies came to trust him. He brought the messages of God to many, preserving them in their divine beauty. He is remembered for his innocence and known for his purity. He interpreted the reality of this world and the next correctly, with a keen intelligence and enlightened soul perfectly receptive to both physical and metaphysical realms. Therefore, whoever is unprejudiced will run to him without hesitation. Even the most obdurate souls have submitted to him, and exceptional thinkers have surrendered to his wisdom. Thanks to him, humanity transcends its corporeal nature and turns towards the spiritual life of the heart. According to the primordial divine destiny, he is the mysterious key that will unlock creation. He is the fulfillment of creation's purpose, the guide along God's straight path, and an intercessor for our eternal happiness. Before him, prophets could only foretell what he would later say. After him, all God's eminent friends confirmed his teachings and professed that he was the cause of their attainments. Indeed, when he proclaimed God and brought attention to the divine unity, his proclamation had been foreshadowed by all prophets and messengers, and would be confirmed by the spiritual discoveries of the eminent friends of God. He was a monument of faith who lived strictly and carefully practiced what he taught. He always behaved in accordance with the world to come and lived in a deep awareness of God's presence. He was more concerned and sensitive than anyone around him, and he was deeply aware of his responsibility. Always in pursuit of a beautiful end, he embraced his lofty task, never taking his eyes off his goal for a single moment, and he offered the treasures of his deep relationship with God to everyone. It is he who explains the meaning of existence and relates it to its true creator. It is he who reveals the wisdom that undergirds phenomena. He constantly reminds us that we are not alone and makes our souls feel known. Thus he brings relief to our hearts and removes our desolation. We taste the pleasures of being at home in the world. Indeed, if we can live in the universe as in a warm house, if our hearts pulse with the love of truth, if we understand the nature of reality, it is because of the torch his words have lit in our minds. Our knowledge of existence is nothing but the unfolding of his inspiration in our souls. He has renewed humanity in the past, is doing so in the present, and will continue to do so in the future. By his coming, he made the corrupt understandings and inhuman behaviors of his time obsolete. We believe that he will likewise cause the people of our time to hear his voice, thus proving the power of his message. People will be able to understand and interpret the truth of humanity, divinity, and the universe once again. As human beings, we will resume our dignified place within creation. The Master of mankind, may endless peace and blessings be upon him, came with a message that concerns everyone and relates to everything. People everywhere were attracted to the profundity of his mission. His temperament was distinguished by utmost perfection, his behavior by exceptional trust, and his attitudes by his constant interaction with the divine. He enjoyed a high morality, called a great character in the Quran that has never been granted to anybody else. No one who even once entered his presence without prejudice could escape his influence. His beauty and superiority were augmented by the most charming speech. When he spoke, even the most eloquent wordsmiths lost their tongues and contemplated his language in silence. God granted him depth in both his inner and outer stature. He was awe-inspiring yet humble. Even the most arrogant souls trembled in the presence of his majesty. The haughty envoys of the Sassanid emperor stood transfixed by his grandeur and forgot what they had to say. But this gravitas was accompanied by such mildness that everyone who knew him felt as if he were part of their family, and they never wanted to leave his presence. He stood always before the Lord, and this fact permeated his words, actions, and gestures. He inspired confidence in everyone. He was always trustworthy, and in his presence, only songs of confidence could be heard. His behavior brought reason and spirit, logic and feeling into equilibrium. He was renowned for his intelligence, his insight that never misled, his resoluteness that allowed no hesitation. His work and perseverance, his strategic decisions, his refusal to surrender to even the most formidable obstacles, his laughter in the face of adversity, his ability to find meaning in hardship, his perfect composure in the midst of struggle, all were outstanding. By his bravery, he transformed defeats into victories and fashioned achievements out of apparent failures. As a family leader, he was peerless. He was a perfect mentor to his friends and knew how to win hearts with his mild manners. He was a matchless guide, never misleading his followers. He was a master of speech, a godly man of the heart, a sage, a chief of state, and a victorious commander. Despite being the peak of perfection, he always behaved like an ordinary man, and he considered himself to be just one man among many. He did not wish to be praised or honored as he surely deserved, and he advised his friends not to show him excessive respect. He was the origin and final cause of creation, but he did not consider himself with undue importance. Although he was the greatest sultan of the spiritual realm, he lived exceptionally modestly, as if he were maintaining a lifelong fast. Instead of eating, he fed others. Instead of adorning himself, he clothed others. He always acted out of a deep gratitude, giving thanks to God 100 times for even the smallest blessing. He surpassed the angels in his knowledge, love, and awe of God. He was in the world, but he was not worldly. He was traveling towards another world, but for the sake of God alone, not to receive any reward. His heart was with his Lord, and his eyes were fixed on the works that manifest his names. For him, this world was an inlet in the ocean of the next, or a field of cultivation that would be harvested in the hereafter. Thus, he dedicated all of his exceptional efforts to the life to come. He was as generous as the wind, which carries seeds across the world and leaves them there to grow. He looked after the poor and fed the hungry, often going hungry himself. When he died, he had no palace or estate, no wealth or riches, nor could he leave possessions to his family. He lived in the world humbly, and he left it humbly. Surely he did not abandon the world, just as he never indulged it. Instead, he judged this life according to its true worth, and regarded the next world according to its infinite value. Despite his dignity, nobility, and relationship with God, he was so humble that newcomers would barely notice him. It was as if he held these two opposites together. Ignoring any reverence shown to him by his friends, he continued to share the ground with them, share his meals with them, and disguise his particularities as if they were a great secret. He joked with those around him to make them feel comfortable. He ornamented his dignity with humility, balanced his majesty with compassion, and always privileged his humanity over the eminence of his task. He was moderate, calm, and balanced at all times. He acted gently even in the face of great affliction. He knew how to calm the rage and fury of those around him and how to soften the fiercest enemies with a single word. When he was forced into combat, he quickly sought mediation. As long as the rights of people were not violated, he would treat his aggressors with forgiveness and tolerance, as the historical literature on his life abundantly demonstrates. His trustworthiness was without precedent. He never broke his promise or went back on his word, neither before his prophethood nor after. He lived as a monument of fidelity, never speaking falsely or even alluding to untruth. He did not hold a pen. He was never introduced to a book, and he had no teacher. This was to ensure his perfection as the universal teacher. This way, his interpretation of the divine commandments would not be adulterated by any foreign knowledge. In other words, God protected his own commandments by keeping his messenger free from external influences. Only in this sense was he unlettered. But as the universal teacher, his words have astonished the most erudite scholars and the most eminent geniuses, the most sophisticated minds and the most enlightened souls. Indeed, history testifies to the power of his speech, the soundness of his judgment, and the perfection of his work. He presented an abundant treasure of knowledge. The news he brought concerning the distant past faced no objection, and the statements he made concerning the religion and culture of prehistoric nations were never challenged. This is natural, for it was God who gave this information to his messenger. He was a sultan of speech, a monument of reason, and a vast ocean of thought, as immense as his mission. His expressions were so fluent, his statements so clear, and his style so rich that he could reveal a world of truth to his audience with a mere sentence or two. Sometimes he spoke volumes of wisdom in a single word, volumes that he entrusted to the interpretation of later masters of exegesis. "I have been given comprehensive words," he said, referring to this divine blessing in him. He would be asked hundreds of questions at once and would respond to all of them without hesitation. He addressed the people in a style that they could understand. He avoided confusion, and he clarified his intentions with succinct expressions so that all could benefit from his teachings and be satisfied, be they learned or ignorant, young or old. He delivered many sermons, addressed various concerns, analyzed different subjects, but he always spoke the truth. Even his fiercest enemies did not accuse him of a single lie. It would be unfair or even irrational to assume that such a man, who spent 2/3 of his life fortified against even the least untruth, might proclaim the divine revelation falsely. His words and judgments encompassed the past, present, and future. He spoke of faith, set rules regarding worship, and made pronouncements on social, economic, military, and administrative topics. He practiced what he taught and harvested the fruits of his practice. History has certified the truth of his proclamations, and thousands of commentators, philosophers, and scholars after him have acknowledged the wisdom of his words. Millions of eminent friends of God have embraced his guidance, affirming each of his judgments. Truly, he stands unique among human history. His magnificent legacy of knowledge and wisdom encompassing all aspects of existence.
You have just listened to the words of Fethullah Gulen, brought to life through an AI-generated voice. Known for his teachings on faith, interfaith dialogue, peace, and education, Mr. Gulen also inspired the Hizmet movement, a global initiative that promotes democracy, human rights, equality, and nonviolence. To learn more about Fethullah Gulen and the Hizmet movement, visit fethullahgulen.org.